Listeners, hello and welcome back to the Roll Report. Welcome to Classing Up the Joint. This is the part of the show where we ask really awesome people really uninteresting questions.
I can't
I'm
wait.
still working on that. I'm trying
I think that's wonderful. Who wouldn't love that?
Right? My name is Colin. I am the GM and creative director of the Roll Report, and I am joined by my wonderful, fantastic guest. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm ALI HAAS. I'm an actor. I'm a writer. I love pasta and bread and cheese, but more than anything, I love playing D&D.
I more than cheese?
Honestly,
more than life-giving substance? That's a bold claim. That's all
I stand by it, kiddos. Get in the comments if you disagree. Let's start a war.
Enough. Yeah, we had one based on, well, a very small one. Someone got very upset that we decided in my interview with the Slovenly Trolls, well, they did the research and we discussed and decided that a matriarchy is not simply a reverse patriarchy, but does in fact encompass this other set of guiding principles and
Absolutely.
things. And we had just some... I'm going to go out on a limb and say I would be willing to bet $5. It is probably a white man between the ages of 20 and 45 got in our comments and was like, yo, I just looked up matriarchy and it's literally just a reverse patriarchy.
I asked the Oxford Dictionary and fuck you.
And our response was like, hi, perhaps you could listen to the episode where we discuss this exact thing, or perhaps listen to the Slovenly Trolls' wonderful episodes on drow matriarchies and why they're not actually matriarchies.
Dude, the drow are sick. I mean, all murder and, genocide aside, their societies are very well structured.
It's really interesting. I will, again, plug Slovenly Trolls for anyone who wants a kind of feminist relook at D&D history and lore. I just learned, I sent them a message because I've been going through, I learned about dragon boobs today. Because they have an entire episode on the artwork for Dragonborn from, 3.5 and 4th edition.
Oh, sure.
Where female or femme presenting Dragonborns, for whatever reason, are drawn with breasts.
Well, I mean, how else are we going to want to fuck them?
I mean, what is the bard in the party going to do if they,
I'm a boob guy, so yeah. I don't know how to interact and not make it creepy if it is anatomically correct. I wouldn't want to fuck a lizard, but I would fuck that lady.
Yeah, that lizard that looks more ladylike.
She's got the, the face of Smog and the body of Rachel Weisz. How can you go wrong?
Yeah, you really can't. You really can't in that respect.
I'm honestly just asking for my own fan art. I'm just throwing out what I want to see in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and if you put out what you want into the world, someday it's going to come back in ways hopefully that you're expecting, right? Well, without much of an actual segue, with that out
I
of the
think
way
we're already there. I think we're already here.
ALI, one of the first questions I've been asking people is how they got into D&D in the first place. And since you like it more than bread and cheese, I really want to know, when did you start playing D&D or other RPGs? What grabbed you? What got its hooks in you and dragged you into the community and into the games? Yeah,
really interesting question. And honestly, from my declaration, I've only it's not as my roster is not as impressive as it should be for bumping out bread and cheese as my favorite thing. I started playing probably about 10 years ago right around when we moved to the Bay. One of my dear friends from high school, Bill Huggins, was in a house, in Oakland, and he started a campaign. And I'd never played any kind of RPG before. Obviously, love playing board games and things like that. And playing make believe is always, as an actor, always that's the first game you learn as a child. Yeah. So, I we started in that group, and from there it just kind of snowballed. And it's at that point where, how many campaigns have I been in? How many one-offs have I done as a DM? There's no answer that I could give you, because there's just so many. And I don't know exactly when it really clicked that this was the best thing ever. I think I have a propensity to build like characters, and this is going to sound really weird. It's not supposed to be weird, listener. I have a calling to characters that are between the ages of like 8 and 14, and are young boys, are child boys. So my first 2 characters I ever built, my first one, when I had no idea what I was doing, was he was a traumatized little drow boy who and he was a bard, but I didn't understand how bards worked. Sure. Music, vocal, whatever your bard, you could cook if you wanted to. I don't care. But I didn't understand that. And so he was silent. He was so traumatized as a child that he was a silent bard. You
made a mime?
I made a mime. And he was this little drow boy. His bardic inspirations were very, very strange. But I think when I built my second character, again, a 12-year-old boy, but he was a dwarf barbarian, and named Meldrock Karkaroff. And he was such a little badass, and he could take so many hits. He was a little smuggler. He had like an underground fighting ring in his town. And I think that's when it started to click for me. That's like, oh, I could make anything I want. I can be anyone I want. And if you have, a good enough, a solid group of people, and a solid DM who's willing to let you get away with absolute bullshit, it's the best. It's better than bread and cheese.
Bold claims, but we'll stick by it.
Because it feeds you with
argument from me.
With mana. There's the mana of the gods that it infuses you with.
Yeah, I feel like the sort of the idea that we put a lot of ourselves into our characters. Really interesting when you think about playing teenage or preteen boys.
That's who I am at heart, man. I am a 11-year-old boy.
I guess I'm curious if with those kind of characters, and I will say from the first, I did not do a great job my first campaign either playing or running of like really checking in with people about the content and doing some safety warnings and consent checklists and that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
And I feel like I'm curious if you've encountered any difficulty with that around these young characters, or I guess just like in your session zeros or in the conceptualizing, kind of going, hey guys, I want to do this like teenage boy who's maybe very traumatized or maybe very gung ho and already a badass in his own way. Because I think I know a number of people that are like, don't make characters under 18. We don't want to deal with what the baggage that might come with that, and some of the emotional, labor that might come with that for both DM and players.
Absolutely. Amazing question. And yeah, there are certainly groups that I've been a part of where maybe wasn't even necessarily me who wanted to make a, person under 18, but there were a few people who were like, I am not really comfortable with it. For me, I'm like, I don't want to have to fucking deal with taking care of a kid. Right. But in the context of safety, I think, plenty of people have issue with, a child being harmed, a child being put in harm's way, a child being sort of subjected to a lot of these things. For me, I think a big question, and I don't know if this is just because I have a dirty mind as a human being, but I think a big thing for me is I never try and all of my characters are like before sexual desire is really established within the mind or the body.
Sure.
So that's never a thing that my kid, like a teenage boy, he's not all about like flirting in the boobs and stuff. He's much more.
You really neatly kind of eliminate a good chunk of what might make some people very uncomfortable.
Exactly.
And you're left with like, well, this is a child going through very intense and debatably
stuff.
traumatic experiences, even if they have the support group of a party behind them, sort of thing.
Yeah. So I think it honestly really depends on the group. And I think it's always really important and really wonderful that, you know, the safety session, you know, session 0 talks are a thing that happen now. And people can really put in like, I don't like when animals get hurt. I don't like talking about, you know, whatever it is. And, you know, the DM and fellow players sort of, following that and respecting that. So I think it really depends on the group and the, you know, how gnarly do we want to get? I played one of my favorite characters I ever came up with. Oh, poor Rolf. His name was Rolf Blood Spigot. I emulated him off of Ralph Wiggum from The Simpsons. So he was incredibly innocent, incredibly naive, but so, hello, fellow travelers. It is wonderful to meet you all, and I hope to help you on your journey. And he was, you know, a little bit of an idiot boy, but we got to, there was this one part, and, you know, everyone was cool with it. They're like, yeah, cool, great. Bring this kid along. Let's, you know, he's clearly been through hell. He's fine. And we got into the situation where it was like a werewolf speed dating session, and I was just like, well, I don't really know what I'm going to do. So Rolf just went and hung out with the bartender, who happened to be a Lich King, and like learned how to bartend, and was just like his bar back, like, yes, you first must pay your coin, and then I shall give you your drink. And then he'll look over, he's like, did I do that right, Hector? Was that good?
Do I use the skull of a rat or the skull of their enemies for that drink? Which one?
Exactly. It's like, Hector, I cannot quite recall if it needs the dust of a pixie's wing or the poop of a gnome. You know, so in that, I think, you know, when you're playing something like that, finding ways to not make it weird that a kid is at a speed dating thing, which is, you know, it's like I as a child, like my parents were both bartenders and waiters. So like I would be a little kid hanging out in like a pub. It happens. There's, you know, children are places that they don't necessarily belong. But yeah, so, yeah.
I love that. I mean, I'm glad it's a thing that people talk about now. Like,
absolutely.
I definitely think a little
it's so
bit of
important.
Like the first game or two, and I was like, man, we just really went for it, and we really didn't. We're lucky it was all okay, and we were all friends, and like,
and it didn't trigger anything.
But like, I think about it now. One of my first campaigns as an adult. So I played a little bit when I was like 10, and then just completely lost. Like, I don't know why. I think whatever edition that was, like AD&D or maybe like early
ADHD.
3.5. That's the one. It was a little bit too crunchy and math based and like adding things and subtracting things, and I didn't get it. And then a friend brought me in as like 5e came out, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. But that campaign, what I'm remembering is that one of our party members was a gnomish artificer who made clockwork sex toys.
Oh, wait, as a 10-year-old? I'm sorry.
No.
Okay.
This is like me as an adult. Like, this is, No, God, as a 10-year-old, I remember, I think I was like, I want to be a rogue and sneak around and stab people.
That makes so
like,
much sense. Honestly, that like either a rogue or a barbarian. For like a 10-year-old kid, it's like, I either want to get hit really hard and not die, or I want to stab the fuck out of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, we we just fell into this thing where like we had this traveling sex toy salesman essentially come along with us, who frequently would do things like we were confronted with, you know, an underground orcish tribe or like whatever they were that didn't really want to fight us because they were busy fighting each other because the couple that ruled them were having marital spats, and we managed to diffuse the situation by building them a custom sex toy.
That's the greatest thing ever.
He had a whole thing going with like a side deal with some mind flayers, trying to make tentacle and mind flayer specific ones. And only now am I going, man, we're all just super on board for this, but we really never talked about any sort of boundary there.
To make sure we're all cool with what's happening. I mean, I think there's always it's a strange dance, you know, that we find ourselves in, because it's like, I mean, I don't want to call anybody out, but if you have a problem with a sex toy merchant healing a marriage, I don't know, maybe look at yourself. Like, what's, I don't see the problem.
I doubt many of those people will be listening to the show, but if you are,
if you're here still, if we didn't lose you already. Oh my God.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, again, with no particular segue, I'm going to lean hard into our first absolutely, seriously, extremely important question, which
wait, the first one wasn't why wouldn't you start with your extremely important question?
Well, I mean, you know, we start with it there. I mean,
you start with the nice softball.
We do the softball of why do you like this game so much and for how long? And then we get to like the really important ones of
the interrogation.
Exactly.
All right.
Allie,
yeah,
what is your favorite character class? Or classes, we accept multiple answers.
I mean, it would be insane if you didn't. It would be upsetting.
A little bit.
I think about this a lot. So as far as like utility and mobility, there is nothing better than a druid. Druid is the most broken class. I'm sorry. It's insane what druids could do. There is no limit. There's truly no limit. And with that, because of the utility, how useful and versatile within the mobility, there isn't a limit on the different kinds of druids you can have. You know, I know a lot of people, I would almost say it's kind of like the joke, the archetype first character, like the half-elf druid whose parents were murdered and they were merchants and I'm trying to, you know, heal which is great. But as you continue to dig, and no pun intended, because Mold Earth is the greatest cantrip ever.
Amazing.
It's the best. It's so useful. It's so infuriating to so many DMs where it's just like, can I just dig underneath it? So out there, if you haven't used Mold Earth, check it out.
Get on that. Yeah.
So I mean, I think just a hard first is, I think druids are the most useful, also the easiest. I think for like a first time player, because there's so much you can do and there's so much fun stuff. And I think it's really easy for people to get into the sort of role-playing mindset of you're trying to heal the forest. You love nature. That's a very easy springboard for role-playing. But then as you continue to dig, my favorite character I'm playing, he's such a little monster. He's horrible. His name is Beetle, and he is a druid of the Underdark, the circle of land druid of the Underdark. So he's got spider climb and gaseous form and stinking cloud, and he's this horrific little goblin creature who's just dirty and loves poop and dead things.
Brilliant.
And so it's like you can have the most beautiful druid in the world covered in flowers and doing fairy fire and, you know, good berry. And then you can have, hey, buddies, I like that. It's insane.
Well, and even within, like, setting aside all of the subclasses, like, whatever you choose can flavor into your spell approach, right?
Dude.
I just the quickly like things at the top of my head, like druids have so many summon spells. Like
It's
whether or
it's insulting. It's insulting. Conjure animals is like I conjure 8 oxen and they all get charge. And
then I just send them one after another. And it doesn't matter if 5 of them miss, but the other 3 are gonna do a ton.
It makes gameplay for a DM madness.
It's to the point I have a player in one of my home games I'm almost positive is going to be a summon based druid, and I'm like, you are running all of them. You need the counters, you need to pay attention. I will not help you with that. Because
it's like if you forget, they don't get to hit. Like I'm not doing that.
I think about things like there's like one of my favorite moments of NADPOD when Emily Axford in like first campaign Moonshine summons 8 pixies who all get once a day polymorph. So you just keep trying to polymorph. And there's summon the conjure woodland beings, summon giant vines, summon fae, like summon celestials at higher levels.
Exactly.
And whether or not, like, when you're a circle of shepherds, I think you get all this other, like, cool stuff for your summons.
I'm also playing a circle of the shepherd, and he's such an idiot. He's a camp counselor RA bro.
Oh, wow.
So he's got all of these, all of his totems are of like, we're doing, instead of bear, hawk, and whatever, because that's just a little appropriative, we did griffin, manticore, and unicorn, the unicorn. But like, they're like friendship bracelets. And so he'll like hold on to it and summon the spirit totem. Yes, Circle of Shepherd. Gets great stuff as like a sort of buffer character.
Yeah. And you can go all healing spells. You can be an incredibly powerful healer.
They're everything.
There's wild shape options. Again, whether or not you go Circle of the Moon, just turn yourself into a fucking cave bear and like run around and smash everything.
I mean, it becomes exhausting at a certain point. When you get to like level 8 and you're like, oh my God, I still have wild shape. I could just wild shape. And then I don't remember, I can't remember if it's goblin or gnome, but there's something that allows you to regain or maybe that's just druid. There's a thing at a certain druid level where you can regain a certain amount of spell slots based on your level. Every short rest, you can, or every long rest, you can. Yeah, hold on, let me see. Natural recovery, I think.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say I frequently pull up the class list somewhere and like at least on D&D Beyond thing and looking for a thing. That must be a particular circle, I think, because I think the basic ones, right? So you have Druid Circle features every so often, ability score improvements, wild shapes, and then like the last ones are like the Timeless Body and Beast spells while you're in wild shape.
Let me see. Bonus Natural Recovery. Is that a class feature or? Yeah, it says it's a class feature, so it must be of the Underdark. Once per long rest during a short rest, you choose expended spell slots to recover. The spell slots can have a combined level of up to, right now I'm level 8, so it's 4. So I can get 4 spell slots back during a short rest.
It is, because I'm looking at it, it's all Circle of the Land. So whatever specialty and Circle of the Land.
If you're desert, if you're forest, wherever you come from.
But that is so useful. I didn't even realize that.
So broken. So yeah, that's my first answer because it seemed it's a no-brainer to me.
Sure.
I do have a deep, deep love for barbarians. I love just being able to just hit me, doing the bear totem and being resistant to all non-magical damage, or except psychic.
It's everything but psychic at that point.
If you get to a high enough level, I don't know if they do. I think it's still not. It has to be non-magical, like bludgeoning, piercing, force, thunder, whatever.
Yes,
but still being resistant. It's insane. But then at like level, when people are like at level 4 or 5, when your druids and your rogues and your wizards are starting to get some really cool shit, and you're just like, I can hit hard still, and I'm harder. I don't know. I'm still as hard to hit, but I'm healthier, So in that sense of like the gameplay, they're not super fun, which I always like then when DMs will throw the barbarian just like a magical item that may help them or not, but might, help their character interact a little bit more than just being the heavy duty brute boy.
I mean, to me, that's the quick tangent of like, that is a DM's job.
Exactly.
I would argue that as a DM, we are supposed to make all of our characters, all of our players feel like their characters are important and impacting the story.
Dude, absolutely.
And if you're doing a like real social interaction, political intrigue sort of a thing, and you've got a barbarian, you either have to figure out ways to make them useful or maybe be like, hey, player, just so you know, we're not doing a dungeon crawl like you're
today. So if you want to just like, all right, that's cool. I got some stuff to do. It's like, oh, great.
Or offer them the opportunity to roll up a new character. If you're like, yo, bring another bard or like a peace paladin or like something that's like got these social interactions.
Paladin, fuck off with that boring shit. Oh my God. What a, paladins.
I was on Discord and someone was like, one of the servers I'm on was asking a question about a mechanics of like a build they were playing with, I think a very new player, because they did not seem to understand how it worked.
Which is fair.
Well, several other people jumped in and were like a little bit more aggressive in their responses. And I was like,
why are people dicks?
Or just they don't think about the impact
miscommunication
of written word versus being able to hear you. If I say to you, oh my God, Ali, that thing you made is kind of broken. I don't think you really want to maybe make that. Like, here's a couple reasons why, versus reading a text message from me that's like, hey, your shit is broken. Like, why would you do it this way? I'm a little confused. Like, anyway. And then he like asked about like, hey, is light cleric any good? And I was like, yeah, heal bots for days. And then someone was like, that's life cleric. And I was like, I don't know. If they're not trickery or forge, they're all the same. And honestly, it's not true, but it kind of is.
But it's so true. But I was going to say, I think clerics have the coolest subclass options because there are so many, and they all do, like, war cleric is very different than life cleric, and like death clerics are cool as hell.
Yeah.
So I think that there's a lot to play with there. But yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, light and life, they can do the same shit.
But just like life
just
is the one
a different
that gets
god.
The, like, you always do maximum healing to people, and you always heal yourself when you like that sort of thing. I was going to say also, like, one of my favorite random terrible ideas that has made a brief appearance in the podcast and will continue to play in later games, a giant blue dragonborn barbarian. If I'm remembering, he's either a totem warrior or might have been like Storm Herald.
Okay, Storm Herald for a blue dragon makes so much sense, but it is trash. Storm Herald is so
and
bad.
He is a diplomat who does not speak very good common, I have decided.
Yes, and that's so good.
Canonically, like where he comes from, which we haven't really talked about and revealed in the campaign setting, like, is kind of like if you like all of the most commonly held misapprehensions about Spartan culture in ancient Greece.
Yes,
like meritocracy based on violence for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And so his whole thing is like speaking bad common, but always introducing himself as Raiwin Vibold, diplomacy. And always like making a huge deal about how a diplomat has to try all your disgusting, soft, fleshy human food and your very weak drinks that don't make anyone drunk, and like talking about art and culture in like very horrifying ways. And as a barbarian, has like okay charisma, but is just making charisma-based checks all the time.
I love that so much. It reminds me have you been watching Shogun at all?
Yes.
It reminds me of Engine, of just like when he first gets there and he's like, what are your warlocks doing to me? Is he going to bleed me with leeches? Like he's trying to be this intelligent English man, but he's just this fucking pirate. Again, with a brief tangent into that, like I never read the book,
but I am so interested in how there's this kind of like mutual view of the other culture as barbaric.
Yes. And I think it's so interesting the way, again, I didn't read the book, didn't know there was a book, but here we go. We're learning new things every day, kids.
Yes, we are.
But I think for so much being people from America, we have seen so many of these stories from our lens. And to see it from a true historical, like people in Europe were dirty. They did not clean. They had very backwards ways of looking at medicine and travel and food and all of these very interesting historical aspects of culture that I think don't necessarily get highlighted if you're a white person from America.
I think especially in America, a lot of our history focuses on even, I grew up in California. I grew up in a hotbed of liberalism and wokeness and all of the things that we like are talk shit about now. And I feel like I had still got a very pro-European world history.
Absolutely. It's like they lived in huts outside. They didn't have roads. It's like, well, okay.
Yeah.
And
then
Asian you cultures, came and ruined it.
Yeah. Like Asian cultures in the Indian subcontinent, in like the greater Asian continent, Southeast Asia, like all of them had these really elaborate, wonderful, amazing civilizations. And then Westerners came and were like, you don't have guns or believe in Jesus, so you're primitive barbarians and we're going to take over now.
Right. It's like, this actually is our land because we believe in God. Have you heard of God, you heathens?
Which one?
Exactly. Do you know the name of your God?
Yeah. Oh my God.
But anyway, great tangent. Great show.
Wonderful tangent. Great show. Highly recommend it. I think
recommend.
We haven't really done spoilers. Okay, so we've got Druid and Barbarian. I'm going to poke just a little bit because I both of those sound to me a little bit mechanical based. And so I'm going to poke and ask the curious question. Is there a class that you're like, mechanically they fucking suck, but I just love them?
Ugh, okay.
Okay.
I think warlocks are so cool, but my gods, it's tough. It's tough mechanically to play Eldritch Blast for 7 levels until, I mean, I think the idea, and again, this goes back to what you were saying, it's up to the DM to really, if you're going to be a warlock, the relationship you have with your patron needs to be, you need as the player to feel that it's strong, that it's there, it's prevalent, it's present. Otherwise, it's just like, you might as well be a fucking wizard. Which are very, very powerful. They're very, very good, but God, they're so exhausting. Wizards, anything that's, again, barbarians, this is sort of a tangent again. I play with someone who, one of the DMs I play with, who is pretty convinced that if you ever play a barbarian, they are not allowed to know how to read. I agree.
Why?
Because they're supposed to be dumb, big, fighty boys.
Supposed to be. All right, whatever.
I agree. I totally agree. But I like the idea of, like wizards who never really learned how to read. So they're interpreting these scrolls. I like that. But they're exhausting. I love the idea of what warlocks represent. I think to have a limit on your power and to have it come from a potentially moody place. If your patron's not in a good mood, or if you don't roll well enough to commune with them, shit might go bad. I love that. I think that's brilliant. Mechanically playing, it's tough when you have a bunch of people who are just a druid and a bard and a barbarian, and they're going in and you're like, Eldritch Blast!
Well, you do get to stay very far away when you are a squishy little spellcaster.
But you're
that's
so
nice.
Squishy. It's frighteningly squishy being that kind of spellcaster. Like,
I mean, hey, they still get a D8, and wizards are still stuck at D6s for their hit dice.
that's so true. That's so true. Poor wizards. Poor dumb wizards.
Well, it's one of those things where, like, I learned the hard way that when you are a spellcaster, unless you design it very specifically for this, you need to stay 40 feet away from everything.
Fuck away. Like,
yeah. And preferably take Spell Sniper and then stay 100 feet away from everything.
I knew. Right? I was wondering if you were going to phrase like take Eagle Eye and then take Hunter's Mark. Like, how many times are we multi-classing this bitch to be able to see 1,000 yards away and kill the big bad?
Yeah. Right. But I really like. I also agree with you. I think Warlock is one of the ones that really, for me to be excited about it all, requires so much buy-in from my DM.
Right.
And really, I would argue, requires a campaign versus a one-shot, unless it's a very specifically designed one-shot. Like, I don't feel like...
If you're going into the mouth of Cthulhu for one shot, like, that's okay, we get it. But yeah, I think it needs to be understood that... Yeah. And honestly, your Warlock might need to be like your main character for a little bit. To be like, there's something going on that's otherworldly, and you're about to be pulled into this other plane because your Warlock made a deal with something it shouldn't have.
Yeah. But there's also like, I'm gonna push slightly, because I do think the sheer number of Eldritch invocations that you can choose from, like the things that your patron just gets, and you get them early.
It's very cool. But then you're done. It's like you do it and then you're done for the day. So you have to be very careful, and I think it requires you to be a lot more role play than mechanic based.
Yes. Yeah. I think it just requires a campaign. But I think about like, I was like looking at these for a minute and things, the like, Mask of Many Faces, always a classic. You just cast Disguise Self at will.
It's like it's Aya. It's Aya working for the,
But it again, you want the time to let that play out often. If you're in a one shot, you can just disguise self over and over and over again.
Right.
But the utility of it is much less than if you're like in a long campaign. Oh, I can look like that guy that we ran into that is supposed to be like delivering the thing to the crime boss, so we can like go fake out the crime boss.
Exactly. Do the Chewie and Han, thing.
Yeah.
I think, oh God, I just had a thought based on what you just said. Yes, I think so. Yes, and also in regards to that, in it needing a campaign, I think it also allows the character and player to grow and learn.
Yes,
and be like, because that happened, that makes this evocation makes so much sense. Similarly to Druids, what you were saying about spell choice. Totally. I think there is such an easy way to min-max a Druid to be able to do everything, but to take spells and choose spells that only that your character would know, and sort of making up reasons for it is so much fun. Like there's again for Beetle, my Underdark terror boy, there's a cantrip, I think it's from Strickham's or Xanthar, I can't remember where it's from, but it's Primal Savagery, and it's essentially just like your nails and your teeth grow, and you get like 2d10 on a cantrip, and it's at an
early low level too. And I think it scales. I think it scales.
It's like it starts with 1d. It starts with 1d10, then you get 2d10, which is one of the most powerful cantrips. You have to get in melee range, which for a druid isn't great. But like if you combine absorb elements and primal savagery, you got a little bit of fun shit going on.
Yeah. 100%.
Hello, fellow tradespeople. This is Ben. I hope you are enjoying this podcast as much as we are. If you are, please leave us a 5-star rating on whatever podcast platform you are listening on. Also, go ahead and follow us on social media at the Roll Report Cast. If you are feeling especially supportive and fancy and delightful, you can also support us on Patreon, which we would really love and appreciate. And you get all kinds of really fancy special bonus perks for doing that. All right, back to the show.
But So I do agree that I think warlocks, there is a lot of room for creativity and discovery almost. I think the class that needs, I don't know if I'm skipping questions, but I think the class that needs the most help is Rangers. Those poor Rangers. I love playing Rangers, but again, it depends on the DM. Like, if you're not going to be traveling a lot, there's not.
I wholeheartedly agree. I will say, I don't think Rangers suck as much as I used to. I agree. I agree with that. Early on, one of my first interviews with a wonderful person, Meadow Lawson, who's a creator based in, I want to say Atlanta.
Great name.
Super cool. And loves Rangers. And I was like, you know what? If we do a one shot, I promise you I will play a Ranger. And so I did. But I really, I think like the Warlock, it just requires conversation and ongoing like collaboration with your DMs. So your favored enemy and terrain are actually relevant.
Yep.
And you get to do...
Right. You're not just like, I picked a Sahuagin, but we're in the desert. What the fuck, dude?
You know, and because a lot of the abilities and things that they get are tied to that. And if you're I'm a ranger of the forest, but here we are in a city for the next 20 sessions, like all my shit's kind of useless.
But then at the same time, that also allows and invites some very interesting role play, where it's just like, I would like to scale the building and see if I can see. It's like, well, it's a building. You're used to scaling trees, so we're going to see how this goes, kiddo. You know, it lends itself to a lot of fun if you have a group and a DM who's like, yeah, I'm sorry, you're going into a city, Ranger. You're probably not going to like it very much. Things like that. But I totally agree. I think, super fun to play. Even like, not the most useful, but a Ranger Druid multi-class makes so much sense to me. Like, just as far as a freaking character goes, being like a hermit of the wood and being able to be like, oh, I can never get lost. And also I can make stuff grow. Makes so much sense. Not very useful in a mechanic sense.
I'd have to think about it. I could see it, though. Like, you Ranger...
You'd have to build it very specifically.
You want to build it specifically if you want it to be mechanically, like, effective and not even min-max,
if you want
to
do anything.
Well, like, you know, so Rangers give you some, like, weapon and armor proficiencies, give you Hunter's Mark and some of these other things. I feel like it would really depend for me on if you're... I'm gonna say I would approach... I think my initial thought is...
Druid first?
Like...
Druid heavy. I think Ranger splash.
I think Druid base class for like your base proficiencies and saving throws are probably going to be more useful. And then
wait, do they might, because Rangers do get certain aspects of magic depending on your, and I think Rangers might be charisma or intelligence, and Druids are wisdom. So I think maybe...
Ranger, I'm looking it up because I want to remember. Natural Explorer, fighting style, spellcasting. It is it's wisdom. It is wisdom also. Yeah.
It is? Okay, well then that would work.
They get like a strength and dexterity proficiency in saving throws. For whatever reason. But you're giving yourself You're giving yourself more hit dice. Rangers are a D10, so you may be getting a little bit more from there. You're getting the things and the favorite enemies,
which is great for a spellcaster.
Right? And I don't know. I kind of feel like I would want to go mostly Ranger. And then flesh it out with a few Druid levels, because I think the Druid levels could give your martial class more of a bump than if I'm building mechanically. If I'm building for flavor, you know,
it also makes sense though, because if you build your Ranger, you start playing with it, then you level up, you multi-class, then you can choose your Druid spells and cantrips, and also depending on your subclass of your Druid, you get extra spells
Yes.
and extra stuff
Yes.
that might be able to help with ranger abilities. So it might actually, make sense to not only get your like AC and HP up first, because druids are very, very powerful even from level 1.
Yeah.
So you start with your ranger, get them nice and solid, and then you sprinkle it with a little druid magic. I love that.
I want to tell a quick druid story, and then I want to poke at the subclass part of our question.
Oh God!
One of the few campaigns that I get to play right now with the Curse of Forever GM, I have a spores druid who is from from a swamp and is very all about mushrooms and is in fact an eco-terrorist. Both they thought both of their parents died when a chemical company burned down their home. It has turned out that they are a tiefling and their one demonic parent is actually alive, and
their one demonic parent just got mad
and left, basically disappeared for 20 years or something, and the character, they have just found out mom is still alive and has become one of Lucifer's like primary enforcers.
Oh shit!
They thought,
that's so fucking
until
cool.
now they were the only member of the party without like real traumatic parent issues. But
and I gave you the worst.
But we're level 16, 17. I've gotten 8th level spells and I was like,
holy shit.
It's been going on for a couple years and we're really like DM is really good about trying to keep pushing us forward and get to level 20. I realized that what I can do is really live out my biggest eco-terrorist, anti-capitalist fantasy fiction, because what I can do is plane shift to outside the New York Stock Exchange, 500 feet away. I can cast Earthquake, which is a 100-foot radius circle. A very specifically targeted earthquake for 1 full minute, only on the stock exchange, and then I can transport by plants across the country away. And it uses 3 spell slots, a minute and a half
just like
total.
what Fight Club wanted to be.
And so this is like the campaign is like a little bit, not a little bit. The campaign is based off of American Gods by Neil Gaiman, and so we're kind of at this point we're up against the new gods, and I was like, I know where wealth is headquartered. Wealth is headquartered at the stock exchange. I can take that whole building out. Technology is based over here at this lab that we visited. I can break the entire lab apart.
Oh my God.
And being the kind of character they are not very worried about collateral damage because they think the earth is overpopulated anyway. So
that chaotic neutral where it's just like...
It's like, I'll do it in the middle of the night, so hopefully no one's inside the building, but like, I don't actually... It's also led to like...
I also do like... It very much shows like the druid who thinks that the building itself represents the money, when in reality that like, this is just a building.
It's interesting conceptual thought experiments of like, do people believe in the building of the stock exchange, the building that exists where there's tickers and you see images of it and whatever, or do they believe in the idea, the agreed upon fiction of money?
The made up bullshit of money.
It's all a collective, collaborative hallucination. Doesn't actually fucking exist.
Just like D&D.
Exactly. Yanking us
and
back on track. Thank you, Ali. So, eco-terrorist dreams aside.
Oh my God.
I appreciate the way when the dice are cooperative, your most carefully laid plans turned into like Looney Tunes capers or like the Muppet caper.
I have for a really long time wanted to develop an Acme RPG where you get Looney Tunes rules, but certain, but like almost like the Wile E. Coyote is sort of like the artificer. Like you get to build, you get to sort of like make things out of what you need. And then Bugs Bunny, the archetype is just sorcerer. He's just a fucking sorcerer. He can do anything. He can disappear. He can change himself.
Yeah. It'd be so interesting trying to I'm just imagining articulating the rules.
I mean, also legally.
Right? I mean, legally you call it whatever you want. It is, the cartoon character RPG, definitely not based on any existing IP. Right?
The Times Square cartoon character.
Yeah. Or like, I'm trying to remember what Marvin the Martian did and like some of these things where I'm just like, man, you've designed their abilities so specifically. Or I was thinking about how often in any cartoon you reach into a small pocket and you pull out an object that absolutely does not fit in there.
A bigger pocket. It's, the bag of holding. I have pockets of holding.
It's the bag of holding with like the infinitely stretchable mouth. Because anything like a full fucking elephant comes out of it, it's one of the rules that they try to make bag of holding not too broken. It's got to fit in that 10-inch diameter or whatever it is.
Yeah, you can't just put a house in there.
But if you have the cartoon pocket, you absolutely just whip out a house. And it's also that you're temporarily strong enough to hold whatever the fuck it is. You whip out a whole house,
the anvil.
You hold it, and you're like, and I put it down, and now I can't pick it up again.
Yeah, exactly. And I think figuring out those rules and those mechanics would be very, very interesting to try and lay out.
Yeah. Well, okay, back.
Well.
Back on track a little bit. I'm going to ask you about your favorite subclass.
This is an insane question
because there's so many. There's so many.
There's so many. And again, it's like, how can I not choose? Like, I'm sorry.
Don't die.
Doing my best here, kiddos.
All we can ask.
Like, in the very basic aspects of the game, the bear totem barbarian being resistant to damage, like at level 1, that's amazing. And there's the eagle, and then I don't even keep reading after bear. I'm just that's the one.
You're immediately like, and then all you need to do is find a ring of psychic resistance, and you are resistant to literally everything.
All things.
Yeah.
So that to me is just so incredible. I mean, I honestly, I don't. What's your favorite? Let's start with that.
Sure. I mean, man, totem barbs.
Do people ever ask you questions?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, totally.
Oh.
I offer many opinions. Totem barb is definitely one of my favorites of the subclasses. I think it just, even then a 3-level multiclass with like almost anything else, you are going to become immediately so much tankier. And if that's what you're going for.
If you're the hit me boy, there's nothing better than like you stand behind me and
it's
and like the combination. Okay, there is a crazy combo that can happen where there's a certain fighter class where you get maneuvers. Battle Master, and one of the maneuvers is like the switch and pull or the switch and shock or the whatever, where you can just switch places with someone.
Yeah.
Like
squishy wizards in the way. You're like, no, you're not.
No, you're behind me. You get your little hat and put you here.
I mean, honestly, Battle Master fighters are also one of my favorites because
really cool.
Their versatility again in multiclassing and on their own. And the way you can flavor them. I made one that was all using the like help your allies. He uses Commander Strike all the time, where you sacrifice one of your multi attacks to allow someone else to attack as a reaction or as a bonus action, something.
That's wild. That's wild.
But you can do that, or you can focus on disarming and tripping people. So okay, Totem Barbarian, Battle Master, and like. I do love Arcane Tricksters and Inquisitive Rogues.
Yeah. I mean, again, kind of going back to the like when we're 10 years old, what would we choose? Like the Assassin Rogue, obviously. I want to be super sneaky, but the Arcane Trickster, being able to do magic as a rogue.
And if you get it to high enough level, my favorite thing, it's what is it? It's like Spell Assassin. I'm going to look it up because I want to get the name right. But when you are whatever level, you magical ambush. If you are hidden, if you're hidden, if you've like used your bonus action to hide or just for whatever reason are hidden,
Which why wouldn't you?
and you cast a spell on a creature, it has disadvantage on any saving throw it makes against that spell. At ninth level, pretty early, honestly.
For what purpose? Just I didn't see the bush. Oh God, the bush attacked me.
And then like so many of their
That's really good.
If you play rules as written, their spells of an arcane trickster are supposed to be, 90% from enchantment and illusion, which is usually stuff like hideous laughter or phantasmal force or like all these things that are saving throw based and concentration, but you distract them, they get a disadvantage, and then you can start, doing the pepper them with sneak attack, right? And
that's wild.
If you really go for it, they get Spell Thief. That is the capstone. At 17th level, you magically steal the knowledge of a spell from another spellcaster. If someone, the wording is...
Do you have to roll mental sleight of hand for that?
You roll... so immediately after a creature casts a spell that targets you or includes you in area of effect, which is great. Doesn't only have to target, but big area.
Sure.
You use your reaction to force the creature to make a saving throw with its spellcasting ability. DC is your spell save. And if it fails, you negate the spell's effect against you and you steal the knowledge of the spell if it is at least first level and a level you can cast. And for the next 8 hours, you know the spell and can cast it, and that creature cannot cast it again until after 8 hours.
Okay. So you just break their brain. You break into their brain. You steal
hijack
shit.
Their spells.
That's the coolest thing I've ever fucking heard. That's madness.
I do love those. I like assassins for a different reason. I like assassin rogues for like pure do some damage, because if you're
I mean, you sneak around, you do 67 points of damage, if you're flanking.
Assassin arcane archer with a wizard in the party casting greater invisibility, you auto crit every single time you fire. As long as you're moving around and your DM so because you auto crit if a creature is surprised.
Right.
And like if you're invisible and moving around and they never know where you are, like, your DM might need to play.
That's quite a surprise.
I would argue so. I some DMs like really, again, reading rules as written of surprised, maybe not, but I was like, no, fuck that.
I mean, especially if there are other people attacking them.
Yeah.
And they can't like track you if they don't have flour in their pocket to,
But I do
always keep flour in your pocket, kids, for invisible creatures.
Right? I do think
little tip.
I love inquisitive rogues. Like I have a big fondness for this. Like
I don't even know what that is.
They are. I would say it's the detective. It's the rogue detective.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. Is inquisitive an actual subclass, or are you just saying you like rogues that do this? Okay.
No. Sorry, it's one of the actual subclasses. Like real quick, you basically
real quick. The second thing on Google is Reddit and inquisitive rogues. Any good ?
I will say yes, hard yes.
Great,
absolutely.
All right, great. Tell us why.
They are rogues that are extremely useful in non-rogue situations. Starting at 3rd level, you cannot roll lower than an 8 on an insight check. So if you have halfway decent wisdom, like you get your reliable talent early, essentially.
Sure.
You can use a bonus action to spot a hidden creature or make an intelligence investigation check to uncover clues. Insightful fighting. Insightful fighting is also a very useful thing. Long game. That is your 3rd level. As a bonus action.
Yeah, that's basically like what's the there's a spell or that you can use or a cantrip that somebody can use to like figure out weaknesses and strengths?
There's a couple of them. I think like some
I can't remember what it's called.
Some fighters, maybe Battlemaster, actually, you get observe your enemy if you spend a minute watching them.
Yeah,
you learn
that's
a lot.
one.
Cobalt Soul Monks get their extract aspects. If you hit with a flurry of blows, you learn vulnerabilities and resistances.
I'll extract your aspects.
All right. Is that a threat or a promise?
You got to roll for it.
But
roll insight.
Right. And so insightful fighting, speaking of, you in combat, you can make a bonus action insight against a target's deception. And if you succeed, you can use your sneak attack against it, even if you don't have a disadvantage. So it gives you, like, people...
That's wild.
It's really cool.
And that also, it gives me vibes of like a... I don't know, like a criminal who became a snitch and then got hired to the force, like as a special, you know, white collar, like they're now, you know,
or the
consultant for crime.
I mean, it's got Sherlock Holmes vibes in a lot of ways to me, and also. I'm trying to remember it. Are you a Discworld fan, Ali? I'm trying to remember if we ever had that conversation.
No, but it's been on my list
really
forever.
Good. Somewhere in the later
Every time I think of Discworld, I think of Dinotopia, and I know they are not the same.
But I love Dinotopia.
Thank you. No one else has the love for it. But
illustrated book when I was a kid.
Wait.
Oh my God, you have it.
Wait.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Okay, so I went to a library book sale. Also, Baltimore, they love their libraries.
Love that.
And I got this.
Yes! Oh my God, I remember it. Oh, it's so good. Oh, God, that book is so cool.
It's so cool, dude.
And
like it's so beautiful.
Criminally underknown. And it's such this cool...
I agree.
Like the world building of it. I appreciate that now as an adult. When I was like 12-year-old, I was like, I just want the pictures and the dinosaurs, you know? And that's exactly what my husband said. As the forever DM, he's like, this is a very solid world build. Yeah.
This is pretty solid all the way through, man.
Yeah.
And even the movie, though, even the sci-fi movie with like, oh God, I can't remember.
I remember that it exists, but I don't remember if I saw it ever.
It's
wild.
I loved watching it when it would come on sci-fi as a kid. I don't know if it holds up today.
Always, never go back to treasured childhood memories today. It's always disappointing.
I don't know. Young Ali was pretty correct about a lot of things. When I go back and I was like, Young Ali did not like this and it is trash. But there are some where I'm like, no, Young Ali was right. This is still freaking awesome. Tom and Huck is still a great movie.
Mm-hmm. I can believe it.
Man from Snowy River, great movie. All right. So, I still don't know my answer to favorite subclass. I like all of your answers.
Fair. It's a tough question. It really is. And like as I thought about it,
because there's so much.
And there's, you know, other people that have been on the show and interviewed have brought up things that are mechanically satisfying because they love how it plays. They love how it multi-classes. They love the character building and the world building that is immediately possible. Like, to come back to Warlock for a second, several people were like, immediately you bring in the supernatural. Immediately you have to bring in the deities,
has to exist.
The patrons, and it immediately, like, your world becomes that much bigger from the get-go.
That's very true. That's that's a very cool way to look at it. That even if you are, in modern day New York or whatever, there's Cthulhu's out there, kids.
Mm-hmm. Always.
No. Always.
And if you want to be safe from Cthulhu, you have to support us on Patreon. No, not actually true. But at this point, if you want to hear the
we have a direct link to Cthulhu, and he supports this Patreon.
It's true.
At the end of days, if you want to be on the list to survive,
go to patreon.com/The Roll Report. And for as little as a few dollars a month, you can support the show. And for $10 a month, you will hear the full interview with everybody, because this is how I've been trying to make things easier on my audio editor and have an actual, like, here is our cutoff point.
That's all you get.
That's all
free.
you get for free. And if you want to hear
now
more,
we're going to talk about sex toys and drugs and
who knows what
politics.
else? Oh God, yes, you definitely have to pay Tara to talk about politics.
Yeah, pay us. I refuse.
Right? Ali, thank you for sipping on this soup with me for the last while.
I don't now I'm starting to picture someone taking a straw into a giant cauldron of soup, and I don't know if I care for the visual, but yes, it has been my greatest honor to be here.
Where can people find you on the interwebs if you would like them to?
Yes, please come find me. You can find me on Instagram at the.magdala. I'll let you figure out how to spell it. Maybe you'll, but you can also find me on some of my other D&D podcasts. We haven't actually released any of the episodes. We are gearing up for some releases, though. We finally are at the allotted amount to,
it is
get
so
things
smart
going.
to try to stay ahead of that schedule. I started at one point, and it is slowly shrinking as we've had life happen. Yeah, exactly.
If we only meet once every month and a half, it starts to get a little difficult to release bi-weekly. But you can find us at World Weavers Adventures on Instagram and TikTok. And then the other one is Beat Our Quest, also Instagram and TikTok.
Beat Our Quest.
World Weavers Adventures is this is the one my husband is running with the 8 opera singers. And it's actually, I forgot to say this, it's based on, he's home spewing, he's not home brewing, but home spewing,
Sure.
adjusting a 3.5 adventure.
Very
so
cool.
He's, so it's very interesting. A lot of, Mid-Eastern, deserty, intrigue, a lot of stars that aren't where they should be. The celestial fabric of our world is tearing. And and Beat Our Quest, we're on a boat. We've been hijacked on a boat, and we don't know where we're going.
I love it. Well, find Ali at the.magdala. We'll have links in the show notes. We'll also try to put links to World Weavers Adventures and Beat Our Quest. I don't know about that, but I certainly do try.
You're doing an amazing job. This was so much fun.
Right back at you. It is so nice to get to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man. I love seeing your face. I love you dearly. Give my love to your cat, please.
I will. The internet knows you can find my cats at No Good Cats on Instagram, and Fast is doing much better. He has funny shaved patches right now, but he is doing better. Thank you.
Oh my goodness, that makes me so sad.
He's
healing. He's taking his meds.
The family hairstyle, really. We've all got little side shaves. Everyone in the house now, including him.
You're so hip.
We are hip cats.
Oh my goodness.
Ending on a pun.
Oh my
Love
goodness.
that.